The flyboard is an accessory that attaches to any PWC, personal watercraft. The PWC propels the flyboard through air and water. The flyboard propels 90% of the water through the primary nozzle, with the remainder routing through the hand nozzles, which ensures stabilization. Despite its seemingly intuitive use, the flyboard is extreme sport equipment. Operators should practice with great vigilance. Safety and general information. Age and weight. Persons must be 18 years of age or older to use the flyboard. No operator can weigh over 350 pounds. Instructor training. To become a certified instructor, a person must take an 8-hour hands-on instructor course at Flyboard Inc. Instructor School in Fruitland Park, Florida. Also, the person must obtain and provide the following. First aid and CPR certifications can be done online. Boat safety course for your country and/or state law can be done online. Time log, 20 hours minimum on the flyboard, and insurance. Equipment required. Operators must wear this equipment at all times while using the flyboard. Coast Guard approved buoyancy vest, wakeboard or comparable helmet, flyboard certified helmet. Isothermal pants. The penetration of water through the orifices of the body during a fall may cause serious injuries. Wearing a simple bathing suit is not adequate protection against the power of water penetration into the lower orifices of the body. Earplugs, unless you have a wakeboard helmet that covers your ears. Putty-style earplugs are recommended as they are not small enough to get forced into the ear canal. Use the flyboard. The operator of the flyboard must have a fellow certified operator on the PWC at all times with or without the electronic management kit. This ensures that if any safety concerns should arise, a qualified person is also present to assist. The flyboard user and PWC driver must be able to swim efficiently. The flyboard must be used only by one person. It is strictly forbidden to have 2 or more persons on the flyboard at the same time. Do not use the flyboard when winds exceed 35 miles per hour and/or waves exceeding 3 feet in height. Under the influences of alcohol, narcotics, or drugs that affect alertness. Pregnant. Dealing with any pre-existing conditions and/or injuries. Please consult your doctor before use of the flyboard. You are phobic of water. Tired or fatigued. Using compressed air or scuba equipment, this could cause an embolism and death. Wearing contact lenses or eyeglasses. Operators must follow the navigational laws in force in the country where using the flyboard. Find an area away from any other watercraft such as boats, PWCs, and other flyboard operators. Also, stay clear of swimmers, divers, and other people in the water. Operate the flyboard in a minimum depth of 8 feet of water unless diving in and out of the water, in which case maintain a depth of 12 feet or greater. Also, be aware of any obstacles beneath the water and only dive in water with 100% visibility to previously specified depths. Be aware that water depth can change significantly over short periods of time due to tides, currents, and man-made events. You may adjust your depth accordingly to meet the minimum depth requirement set forth above. Do not direct the jet propulsion towards a person. Dive into murky water. Most water injuries are caused by diving into the water. You could cause neck or spinal injuries. Know your water area. If you are going to dive into the water, it is best to dive into clear water. Take off or land, on land, or use the flyboard near surfaces such as rocks, docks, beaches, boats, banks, etc., as the risk of injury near these surfaces is high. Attempt to swim attached and/or using the flyboard. The flyboard will float, and while wearing the correct CE certified vest, you will float. Exceed your physical limits. Also, avoid aggressive maneuvers to reduce the risk of losing control. The flyboard is a high-performance machine, not a toy. Reproduce stunts, tricks, and risky behaviors as seen on television, the internet, or in person. For example, backflips. These are made by professionals, and if attempted by a non-professional, could risk serious injury, put your life in danger, and damage the equipment. Operate the flyboard near sand. Sand will get into bearings. Time is needed to break in the flyboard bearings and seals. Flyboard operations. Warning, make sure that the 30-foot hose is all the way extended before you throttle the power of the jet ski to raise the flyboard user out of the water. Powering the throttle before the hose is fully extended could seriously cause injury to the flyboard user. When turning, you must have a minimum turning radius of 30 feet. An aggressive turn against the PWC may cause the flyboard user to fail, the PWC driver to fail, malfunction of the flyboard, destruction of flyboard in whole or in part. Do not turn 360-degree loops in front of the watercraft, as this may damage the hose and the electric cable. You can go 29.5 feet high, and we recommend not going deeper than 8 foot deep. If you go deeper than 8 foot and you do not pressurize your ears, you can rupture your eardrums. It is advisable that the flyboard user falls forward as much as possible so that the nozzle of the propulsion are directed downward, which greatly helps to cushion the fall and aids in not sinking underwater. Never take a path towards the PWC, either forward or backward. The flyboard user and PWC driver must make sure the flyboard user has sufficient stability without falling before attempting higher elevations. If, when submerged, the operator becomes disoriented, the operator should release the throttle or shut off the engine to the PWC in order to float back to the surface. In water where strong currents are possible, you must have the PWC's power on to be able to escape the current from pulling the person on the flyboard under. If the flyboard operator needs to turn the power off, quickly turn the power back on to aid in escaping the water current. For a novice flyboard user, the driver of the watercraft must not exceed 4,500 RPMs when trying to lift the flyboard user out of the water. Unless the flyboard user weighs 225 pounds or more, then the watercraft must not exceed 500 RPMs. If the flyboard user fails to take off, it means that their feet are not positioned correctly. It is important not to accelerate more than the RPM stated because the user may be propelled in the air and rise out of the water higher than is allowable. When the flyboard is operated from a person from the PWC, the driver of the watercraft must not exceed 6,000 RPMs. It is recommended for PWCs over 250 horsepower to use their key to limit the amount of horsepower used. The flyboard user must enter the water face forward, maintain a minimum distance of 15 feet from the PWC at all times. Always be absolutely positioned to move forward and never backward to limit falls on their back. You want to fall on your front side and fall away from the PWC. This will help you avoid coming in contact with the PWC and the hose. Constantly control their position relative to the PWC and be even more vigilant when they rise to heights greater than 15 feet. Also, be aware of and avoid the presence of any objects, reefs, buoys, shallow land, etc. Be aware that the water depth can change significantly over short periods of time due to tides, currents, and man-made events such as releasing water from reservoirs. You must adjust your depth accordingly to meet the minimum depth requirement of 8 feet. If and when the flyboard user, number 1, gets closer than 15 feet, release the throttle. This will help the flyboard user to remember to stay away from the PWC. If the flyboard user is higher than 10 feet, release the throttle gradually. Number 2, gets closer than about 8 feet. Do not release the throttle. By doing so, the operator of the flyboard could hit the PWC. Instead, slowly let up on the throttle. Number 3, falls into the water. The flyboard user must be aware of the distance between themselves and the watercraft, which the flyboard is connected to, due to the inertia that may push the PWC towards the flyboard user. You want to avoid the PWC from hitting your head. Number 4, falls on their back or goes underwater from a fall, dip, etc. The driver of the watercraft must immediately release the throttle and turn off the engine to stop the person from going to the bottom of the lake or body of water. Number 5, falls. Especially on their back, the user may go underwater to a depth of about 6 feet and must anticipate an apnea of about 10 seconds during the fall and during immersion. Electronic management kit use. The electronic system must be installed by a professional. The electronic management kit, or EMK, has 4 LED lights indicating the amount of propulsion used. 1 LED light is the minimum and 4 LED lights is the maximum. The flyboard user must begin learning with step 1 for a minimum of 20 minutes of use. More time may be necessary depending on user capabilities. Each step, LED lights, must be performed for a minimum of 20 minutes before moving on to the next step. Step 4, the fourth LED light, must not be used until the user has spent a minimum of 10 hours in position 3 for PWCs in excess of 150 horsepower. Step 4 has the potential of lifting the flyboard user 30 feet into the air. Step 4 should be only used by advanced flyboard users. Type of PWC. PWC, any type of watercraft provided that is approved and certified by authorities of the country of use. Power requirement, 100 horsepower. Maximum power allowable, 300 horsepower. It is extremely dangerous and not recommended to remove the buoyancy elements of the PWC or flyboard. Adapters are available from distributors depending on the brand of model of each watercraft. Never trailer or launch the jet ski with a 180-degree elbow on back of the PWC. Where to practice the flyboard. The flyboard can be used in both closed water, for example lakes, and in open water, for example the ocean, provided that the minimum water depth of 8 feet is respected, 12 feet when diving. Warning: it is the responsibility of the user to ensure that there is sufficient depth of water in the place chosen to use the flyboard. If you are setting up, breaking down, or just docking the flyboard near a dock where there are waves, make sure to bring all parts of the flyboard, especially the hose, out of the water because it may drift and get caught up in rocks or get wrapped around the dock. Maintenance. To assure adequate security, we recommend: A. Do not bend black arm hose more than 30 degrees. This will shorten the life of the hose and void your warranty. When you do bend the hose back to its original shape with a pair of channel lock pliers. This will stop the wires from sticking out and causing the hose to leak. Also, the hose is made extra long so that you can cut off the hose where it leaks. B. Spray the bearing of the EMK on the 180-degree pipe with WD-40 daily or after being stored for a long period of time. C. After 2 hours of operation of the flyboard, check and make sure the Allen head bolts that hold the hose housing and back of the PWC are tightened. D. Each day you use the flyboard, make sure the boot screws are tightened. E. Change the hose every 2 years. F. Changing the plastic ball pivot systems and rotation of the flyboard every 2 years. G. Change the pipes connecting the thrust system to the hands every 2 years. H. Change the hose protection carabiner regularly due to wear. I. The flyboard should be rinsed with clean water after each use. J. Do not pull the hose on the floor when full of water. K. The hose should be rinsed, dried, and rolled up after use and before each storage. L. Do not over-tighten the 180-degree elbow to the PWC. This will cause your Allen wrench to break. Have a spare 6mm round Allen wrench in your PWC compartment at all times. M. Get a floating device for your Allen wrench. N. The flyboard must be stored in a dark, dry place. Connection to the PWC. To connect the flyboard to the watercraft, you must 1. Remove the rear jet nozzle and braking system. Your PWC may not have a braking system. Number 2. Connect the adapter for the appropriate make and model to your PWC. Attach the large 180-degree elbow to the adapter that is attached to your PWC. The screws on the large 180-degree elbow must be tightened counterclockwise and should not be over-tightened with the Allen wrench, as over-tightening could break the key or screws. Tighten screws with one hand. This will prevent over-tightening. With the large 180-degree elbow coming out of the PWC and going to the left, facing back of the PWC, you need to tighten the screw in the top right first, as this is the screw that holds the elbow in place. Insert picture here. To make sure that you have connected the top right screw properly, gently wiggle the elbow back and forth to ensure that you have tightened the screw correctly so that the elbow doesn't slide around. Number 4. No longer is the back strap needed. Number 5. Connect the front strap to the coupling hook in front of the PWC. The flyboard is licensed for all recreational and leisure rental lucrative shows, and demonstrations are exclusively reserved to Zapata Racing. The flyboard is protected by USA and international patents. All rights reserved. Any reproduction, even partial, of the product by any means whatsoever is prohibited under penalty of law. To have the 1-year limited guarantee of the flyboard, you must register on the website www.zapata.com. ZapataRacing.com. Section Flyboard Service within 15 days of the purchase. Zapata Racing does not guarantee the flyboard if not used as described in this manual. The warranty is limited and covers only defective parts. The warranty does not cover wear and tear on parts. The flyboard should be used in its original configuration. It is strictly prohibited and dangerous to modify, remove, or add parts other than those provided by Zapata Racing. Breakage of equipment caused by falls associated with extreme use will not be guaranteed.